Listening to that is Adam Jogee, the Labour MP for Newcastle-under-Lyme. He's starting a forum in the town to help other families in similar positions. Morning, Adam.
Morning, Paula. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, my darling. So you heard Ellis's story there. Are these typical stories that you're hearing?
Yes, and I've heard Ellis's story before. Hannah and Dan got in touch with me during the campaign and then subsequently quickly afterwards. And I wish it was an exception. But day in, day out, literally day in, day out, alongside Wally's, I'm written to by families, by teachers. I had two head teachers wrote to me yesterday, asked me to come in and talk about the pressures that their schools are facing when it comes to the SEND crisis in Staffordshire. And parents are constantly telling me they can't get responses to the plan. They can't get answers from the county council. They can't find the support that their children need at school. And so many of them, as we've heard in Dan, Ellis and Hannah's case, are staying at home. And that has an impact on family finances and the mental health of parents as well as young people. So yes, Paula, this is serious and we've got to get it sorted.
Well, like they were saying, Hannah and Dan there, you know, they're sick and tired of telling the same story to a different person every time they've got to explain themselves and try and get further with this. You know, that it's got to be wearing, you know, having to keep explaining and explaining to different people, you know, what help they need.
And I think there's a real sense that I've said something to Paula, Paula's heard it. I've then had to go and find Adam again. He's heard it, but there's no joint up conversation between Paul and Adam, which means things fall through the gap. It means families get left behind, young people get ignored, their challenges, issues, needs aren't being addressed. And I think there's a wider point, which is for us to honestly live by the values of we will support all our people and give them the support they need, making sure that we tackle SEND provision in Newcastle-under-Lyme particularly, obviously, but Staffordshire generally is hugely important. I've raised it directly with the Education Secretary. I was talking about SEND last night. I had the German debate in Parliament on higher education in Staffordshire, but of course there's a link, because how do you sustain a productive, effective higher education system if young people aren't able to go to university, and how will they get there if they're not getting the support they need at a younger age? So we are looking to take every opportunity we can to raise these challenges. I write to the county council pretty much daily, or at least it feels like it anyway, with different cases from different people. But that's why I've decided to set up this Senko forum, because I want to make sure the parents, the teachers, the practitioners, all those involved in seeking services and support, in providing services and support, and experiencing service and support around the table to share their ideas and their thoughts and their experiences and their memories and the trauma, as you've heard from Hannah, that they've experienced, so we can put that into one place, so I can make sure the Education Secretary is very, very clear about the pressures here in Newcastle-under-Lyme.
So, I mean, you're setting this forum up, hopefully, like you say, to help the families. In what way? I mean, do you think the forum will help that families like the one we've spoken about today, they're not on their own? They don't feel so isolated because they're not the only people going through this?
Sure, Paula. I think one of the biggest issues is a sense of loneliness, isolation, disconnect both from the system but from other people experiencing these same challenges. And there'll be plenty of community roads in our communities where number 10 has the same issues as number 72, but they don't know that, so they're not able to share best practice or help relieve a little bit of the stress. So one thing, it's about making sure people come together. Secondly, it's about, as this new government, and certainly as the MP will be holding the county council account to, comes to putting our plans together and formulating our policy. The Education Secretary is already committed to fixing this system. I want Staffordshire and Newcastle-under-Lyme particularly to be the heart of the solutions. We've got plenty of experiences here that I need ministers to understand to help shape what we do going forward. So ultimately my constituents in Newcastle-under-Lyme, my young people, my teachers and my parents and carers get the support that they need.
That's fair enough saying that, holding them to account, but the County Council has told us that it's seen a 30% rise in the number of children special educational needs. That's more than 22,000 children. Surely it can't afford to support all these children's individual needs.
There's two things to this. One, of course, finances are an issue, but I don't think you can walk by on the other side and not make sure that our young people, vulnerable young people with special educational needs, who could and should be able to thrive and succeed with a little bit more support. That's the point here. They could and should be leaders of tomorrow, and will be if they have the support they need. So I think making the case is quite clear. But secondly, The county council is interesting, right? I've written to the chief exec and the leader several times, as I said, a week since the election, or at least feels like it. At no point have I had a letter from the county council leader writing to me saying there's been a massive increase in SEND provision. I know that because my constituents tell me. But for him to make the case for extra resources and the pressures, he should be talking to the MPs in Parliament and saying, how can we work together to get things done? That conversation hasn't happened. And hopefully, Paula, through that very good question and my answer, Councillor White may wish to answer my call for a cup of tea so we can address these issues. And I could be a helpful ally, because I don't care who gets the credit for what happens. We just need to make sure we get the system fixed and my constituents the support that they deserve.
Well, if you do sit down and have that brew, let us know. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Adam Jogee, the Labour MP for Newcastle-under-Lyme.